Sorry, I had my mic muted there. Everyone should be able to hear me now? Trying to change the finger. Can't change the latency. Yeah, my internet decided to stop working right when I started the stream, but we're all good now. Right, so I was saying earlier, this is the last lesson on the close guard that we're doing. We're gonna quickly recap everything, and then we'll move on to the new stuff. But just a quick reminder, we did posture breaks on the first week, talking about the importance of breaking the posture just so you can set up all your submissions and etc. So here's a few examples of the posture breaks that we talked about. We didn't go into details with the posture break, but most people know them already. And then week 1 was our submissions and our armbar setups. So we got armbar, 2-on-1 control, elbow control, and the belly down transfer. Those are your traditional armbar setups. Then we looked at the stack prevention. Again, probably the most important armbar transition you need to learn. So that's the counter. And then we have the spinning underneath to finish off the armbar, which is it's the one where we looked at the fight breakdowns. We saw a couple of people doing those and a couple of people not doing it. Okay. Then last Friday we looked at avoiding the guard breaks, arch and collapse, elbow dig prevention, and a few follow-ups. So this basically, whenever you're playing close guard, you don't want people to break your guard at any point, right? So this is probably one of the most important drills you need to learn to keep the person in your close guard. Looked at the 2 most traditional guard breaks, which is the kneeling option, which is where you use your elbow to break the guard, and we looked at the standing version of that, standing guard break, so where they stand up and then break the guard. So those are the things you're avoiding when you are playing close guard. The elbow dig counter, fairly easy to stop. Reach for the sleeve, and then you can follow it up with some form of arm drags. And then we had the stand-up technique, which is the arch and collapse, which requires very good timing to do, but it's probably your strongest weapon for fishing for submissions afterwards as well. And we looked at a few times when it's good to go for armbar or an arm drag. So there's a traditional arm drag setup towards the back. And then following up, adding your own sequence. That just basically means you can add anything to this chain after you do the arch and collapse or the elbow dig counter. So I just did the armbar, but you could go on a platter, triangles, all sorts of submissions there. And then last lesson, we looked at the sweeps, the hip bump, scissor sweeps, and flower sweeps. Your traditional hip bump move, we break the posture first. As the person's posturing up, we get up, thrust the hip forward, and we sweep. We saw that we can do a few submission chains off the hip bump. So that's just your regular hip bump, person bases, and we go for Kimura. And a direct hip bump, which we're calling it the white belt hip bump, when someone's leaning back too far, you can just straight up sit up and sweep them. Things to avoid, basically, again, it's them passing your guard most cases. But if you mistime your hip bump, the person can just climb over. Okay. Then we looked at scissor sweep, your standard traditional versions of it. Collar and sleeve, shrimp in, sweep. Heavy knee variations against those heavy opponents with a good base. Kick through, and one leg up version, which we kind of discussed a little bit, and we talked about how it's a bit better to go for the flower sweep instead. And then we have our flower sweep from our knees, which is one of the strongest close guard sweeps. That's your shanji sweep, which is persons on their knees. We had the standard flower sweep here, when person goes one leg up. And we looked at the things to avoid, which mainly is getting your hand stuck while you're trying to do the flower sweep. That's it for the recap. I blasted through it. That's not the thing we're doing today. But today we're looking at when your guard breaks. Okay, we're gonna look at introductions to open guards and half guards, your kneeling guard options, and your standing guard options. So you've done everything you could in your close guard. You fished for those submissions, the hip bumps, the sweeps. None of that is working. The guy on top is probably gonna open your guard. So we need to have a backup plan, which is these sort of guards that we have in jiu-jitsu, right? So the first one is our half guard. I separated from kneeling breaks into standing breaks. So your half guard, lasso half guard, and butterfly, they're all gonna be from when the person's on their knees. So as soon as we know our guard's gonna be broken, we're gonna set up those guards. So the first one is our half guard. So Kirsten here is gonna break the guard and step over the leg. Notice how I instantly put a frame in, and this hand is getting ready to block the crossface. Because there's two types of half guard that we know, right? There's your standard knee shield half guard, and then we've got the half guard where Kirsten's on top crushing us. So we don't want any sort of closure between both of us. Maintain that distance until you're ready to go for your moves. So I'm just here getting into my safe position. So your frames go in. One is blocking your head always, and the other one is framing her from stopping her from getting chest to chest, basically. So this is our standard half guard scenario. Okay, always go to your safe position before you start doing your moves, especially as a beginner, because often you get too excited about the move you're going for and you make mistakes, letting the guy flatten you out or potentially pass. So go into your frame and block the crossface first of all. Then you have time to set up your moves. They're in half guard, they're not standing, so you got a little bit more time. But remember your safe position here. The frame goes in and blocking the crossface. Like I said, then you can start setting up your other guards and etc. Your other option is as soon as your guard's opening, you've got double wrist control. You can set up your own guards straight away. Okay, so this is more of a advanced version of it. But my guard's broken. I can shrimp in, set up my lasso, and then get into my half guard scenario. Okay, so again, as soon as I realize my guard's gonna break or nothing's working, I start doing my own transitions. So that's quite important. I shrimp in, knee goes in, loops over, and lasso. So these are just two scenarios that I'm telling you guys to do, right? But you could go to any guard you like. But it's quite nice having two available options for when someone stands and from when someone stays on their knees. So I'm saying half guard when they're on their knees, and then we'll see later on from standing we're looking at different options. Cool? Any questions so far? Everyone good? Is the sound okay? Yes. If there's no questions, we're moving on. Oh yeah, the chat is a bit delayed. I don't know. Is the chat working? That was a lot of information I gave you guys, but hopefully everyone understands. But alright, moving on. You guys can ask questions as we go, and I'll answer later if you want. So now it's transition windows. Okay, we're looking at half guard first of all. So we set up our half guard. We could go for our standard half guard moves, which I'm not gonna go through them today, but we will look at them in the future. But I'm just thinking of transitions right now, right? So the first window is the half guard. So we got into half guard. We can go for our regular half guard moves, or we can set up our half butterfly, one leg X, or deep half. This is what we're calling transitions in Jiu-Jitsu. So it's really important, especially at the higher belts, to be able to go from one guard to another. Because you necessarily might not like half guard, but you can use the half guard to go into one leg X or deep half or something that you like a little bit better, right? Marianne's, what is half guard? Making fun of Christine. So knowing your transitions is very important. Okay, you will develop this over time, so you will understand that guards that you like a little bit better, that your body kind of adapts to better as well. So don't worry if you don't understand this right now, but just know that there are windows to the half guard. Okay, so it's not just one move that you have to go for there. So your most traditional ones, especially in our club, is the butterfly half. Okay, and I suggest everyone learns this. Very underused guard in the gi, very used in no gi, but it can be very powerful. A lot of famous fighters for it. Ross, Adam Wojcinski, they've based the whole system around this butterfly half. So how to set up the butterfly half, we're going to look at it now. So again, Kirsten has broken the guard. We got into half guard. I've straight away gotten into my safe position. Okay, so I've made my frames. I make a little shrimp there and I get my knee shield in place. I've decided to go to butterfly half. So you can do this with an underhook or with an overhook. Okay, so that's my arm going over the top there to reach for the belt. So I reach in, I grab the belt, toes on the mat to make base. Another little shrimp to put the butterfly hook in. And then you can do any butterfly chain that you like. The traditional one, you just curl your leg over and you sweep them. But again, there's loads of moves and sweeps that you can do from here. Today, again, we're just focusing on the transitions. We'll look at the sweeps later on, etc. But that's your first transition that you can go for from the half guard move. So get your frames in place, shrimp in, grab the belt, and set up your butterfly half. Okay. The next transition we're looking at is the one leg X transition. These are for we're basically forcing the person to stand, and it's going to be very similar. This time I'll slow this down. This time I've already got my butterfly hook there that you can't see, so imagine it's the end of this first slice. So I've managed to get all of these moves there. So from butterfly half, we're able to elevate the person by allowing them to cross face us. So you see I let go of the block there, so Kirsten can hug my head, which means that she has no base to this side, which one I can try to sweep her over to this side, or I can take her over to the other side to go for one leg X. Let me just set up my arrow tool here so you guys can see, so I can draw in a bit better. Here we go. There we go. So imagine there's a butterfly hook just underneath there. And now butterfly sweeps are towards this side. One leg X is towards this side. So I'm going for one leg X. So I should be taking her to the other side. She has to base. Okay, she's got her arm and her leg to base, so she shouldn't fall. And that allows me transition to one leg X. This is your standard. We'll look at this later, but I'll just show the slice again. So we've got butterfly half, tip him over to the side, That's us in one leg X. And our last transition, like we said, is our deep half transition. Again, deep half very underused, but very powerful. If you're really into deep half, look up Bernardo Faria, Jeff Glover. They're like deep half masters. Again, I'm starting with the block there. I know where to go now, so I shoot my arms in, on the hook, and on the leg grip there. Swing your hips to the side, and that's our deep half entry. So these are pretty much almost all of the transitions you can make from the half guard. There's a few more, but these are the basic ones. So if you're frozen from your half guard scenario, we can transition to these. So it's not the end of the world. So, but I would suggest, what I hope to do later on, we're going to break down the half guard. We're going to break down the half butterfly, one leg X, and deep half. So you have a system from each one of them. And the whole point of these classes or these things is to break down every single move that you can do from each guard. So we're never stuck. We'll go into our half guard, we'll know our chain from there. If it doesn't work, we'll move on to our half butterfly. If it doesn't work from there, we'll move on to our one leg X. And hopefully you'll be in an attacking scenario every single time. Yes, so you can force people to stand up from the butterfly strike. So let's say we have a person who really likes open guard. She only plays De La Hiva, Spider, Lasso from standing. And that's his whole game, right? But then he gets forced into a stocky player who only passes on their knees. The person is never wanting to stand up. And he's forcing you to half guard. So we can use the half butterfly to force them into one leg X to make them stand, or even potentially sweep them. They're either going to get swept or they're going to have to stand. So you don't have to necessarily be a master at every single position, but you can work your way around into a move to make the person go into your A game, if that makes any sense. Alright. So moving on, so those are all of our half guard transitions, okay? And I would always suggest get good at one of them first before moving on to the other ones. In terms of learning stuff, I think is the best way. Now we have our open guard windows. The person is doing their stand-up technique and breaking your guard. This time from a standing perspective, so it's harder for you to set up your half guard moves. So here are options. We can go collar and sleeve, De La Hiva, one leg X, Lasso, and Spider. Again, these are just half of the guards that you can go for, but it's a good starting point. We have our standard Spider guard setup. So Kirstine here is going to do the stand-up technique. As soon as I know my guard is going to be broken, I set up my grips and I get my spider guard. Okay, so she's never into a guard break straight into a pass, which is very common in your early levels of jiu-jitsu. Someone will break your guard, you would just stay there panicking or whatever, or trying to hold on too long to the closed guard, and the person goes straight into a pass, either a knee cut or some sort. But if you're once a bit earlier, and here I opened my guard myself. I knew she was gonna stand. I opened and I set up my spider guard before she could start the pass sequence. So knowing that is very important. Again, this is just one option. Then we have all of our transitions from spider. We can set up Lasso and De La Hiva. And I could have gone to any of these two guards from the guard break as well. Instead of going to spider, I could go straight to Lasso, or I can go straight to De La Hiva. So here I'm just showing you all the guards. So that's Lasso, and that's De La Hiva. And there's one more here which you can't see, but it's collar and sleeve guard, which is this bit here. But those are your three traditional open guards that you probably want to get good at or know a little bit about before you start your jiu-jitsu career, or before getting good at certain something. These are like probably must-haves in the gi. So spider collar sleeve to lasso. Let's talk about this for a bit. Spider guard is your main distance control guard. Very powerful too for people with long legs. Requires grip strength, and not a lot of people love it. Okay, because it's very hard on your grips. It's very unforgiving in terms of if you're not very good at it, people pass your guard quite easily. But it just requires a little bit more time to get good at than other guards, in my opinion. But it can be a very dangerous guard. Okay, so that's spider guard there. So both feet on the biceps. One leg is always extended. One's towards your chest. From here, we've got several tacks like omoplatas, triangles, but a lot of people only use it for transitions because it's quite a hard guard to set up moves, but it's very good at the early levels as well. So collar and sleeve guard is our next guard here. So this is more Mendes style sort of guard. One foot is on the bicep, one hand is on the collar, and the other foot can be on the bicep or on the hip. Collar and sleeve guard, very good for people with strong grips. Not as bad as spider guard because the collar grip's a lot easier to get used to. It doesn't tie your arm as much, and it's very good for breaking posture. So if you have a very good solid grip here on the collar, nice and high, if you just pull this down, you will off balance the person quite a bit if they're not very strict with their base. And again, we can shoot for triangles, omoplatas. Very powerful guard for submission hunting. Our next guard here. So here we can see it's harder for her to pass to one side. I can set up my lasso. And again, we can set up De La Rivas as well, and lots of different guards. But that's our spider guard and sleeve to lasso. Now, I've given you all the basic standing options of one leg X. We looked at it earlier, but I didn't show it in the video. But we looked at lasso, spider, and De La Riva, which I think is very important. Everyone should learn a little bit of lasso and spider and De La Riva, because it's the guards that you get the most distance out against bigger guys or people your own size, and it's harder for them to pass as well. But they're very there are a lot of windows of passing, okay, especially when you're playing lasso. And we need to know the most common transition counters. This is good for both us passing and us being the person on the bottom. So pay attention to both of the moves, because if you're dealing with someone who plays a lot of spider, this is your window to pass. And if you're playing spider, you should know this, okay? The first one is this pass, okay? So Kirsten's going to do the move now. I go to lasso, she pulls the sleeve and hip thrusts. So right now I have full control, okay? Both of my feet are on the bicep the whole time. For me to go to lasso, I have to lose connection of one leg, and this is the window that Kirsten has to pass. And we see this a lot in competitions, where the person flings this leg over to the side. Sometimes they get past and sometimes they don't. When they don't get past, it's because this foot's still connected. But you're going to see me losing connection there. This is where Kirsten wants to take this arm away, so I can't get my lasso there. And then she's just going to fling this leg over to the side to at least get me into some form of pass threat. So if you are going to play lasso from the spider, you have two options. One is be really quick with this leg and hope that you get the lasso really quick, which everyone does. Okay, and it's not like it's not the wrong thing, but you must know that there is a window for the person on top to pass there. Or you can set up, if we go back to this bit here, I think, standing guard, oh yeah. And it's the same thing, so freeze there, and then we're just gonna look again. Same thing, transition count spider to De La Riva. So I'm going for De La Riva now. Right now I have full connection on the body. I lose one leg to go for De La Riva, and again she can throw my leg over to the side. So if you're passing guy, these two moves, if you time it really well, you will get past a lot of spider guard players, because not a lot of people know how to transition very well and efficient. But if the guy is very quick, then you're probably gonna get stuck in lasso or whatever. Let's look at the right way now. Not the right way, but the safer way to transition. Let me just find it here. Transition to your guards a little bit better. So here we have collar and sleeve guard. Now the beauty about collar and sleeve guard is that you constantly got the person's posture broken, the sleeve control, and you can move from whatever position you want quite quick. So my advice to any of you, if you're transitioning to any of these moves there, is set up collar and sleeve before you go to any transition, or some form of collar and sleeve. So we can see it here, I think, where I go lasso. I want to go De La Riva, so I take the collar first to keep her in place, then I switch, and that will stop a few of her pass attempts and etc., which is really important. Any questions? That bit is probably the most complicated bit out of all of this, and it is really difficult to understand. So if you guys don't understand, let me know. I'll try to break it down a bit further, especially if you play spider and De La Riva and stuff, because it's really important knowing your transitions. But this shows it very clear. Okay, if you're still confused, here I didn't go for collar and sleeve before I set up the lasso, so she's able to pass. Here I didn't set up collar and sleeve before I went to De La Riva, so there's a pass window. So if you imagine me, if I let go of this, grab the collar, and then set up my lasso, I'll be okay. Or if I did the same and then set up my De La Riva, I'll be safer. But again, if you're quite quick, you can get away with a lot of these things. But if you got a guy who is very good at passing and he knows the little windows of transitions, he can pass you quite effectively. Okay, that's the end of this slice of transitions. Again, the whole purpose of this is just to give you an insight of when your guard's broken, move right away to one of these moves, okay, to transition to something that you're good at. We will look at half guard next week, then we'll break down to half butterfly, deep half, etc. Or I might, depends what I choose, or we might do collar and sleeve first, and then we'll look at all our options from there. And there's a whole bunch of options from there, so don't worry if all of these moves don't make sense right now. We will look at them, but the concept I want you guys to understand is your guard is broken against the kneeling opponent. Don't try to force person to stand right away. Set up your half guard, get into your safe positions, then you can transition to your A game somehow. And there's always windows. From standing, I can make the person sit down at some point. From half guard, I can make someone stand up. And I can play my spider guard if I'm a spider guard player. And you will find your own way at some point in jiu-jitsu career. And you find little cheat codes from, like, let's say, half guard to one leg X, or half guard to De La Hiva. You would just find a way there. But like I said, we'll look at every single guard at some point and we'll break it down. Okay. I'll put in like a pool of votes and then we'll see if we'll do collar and sleeve or half guard, and you guys can choose. But that's it for this slice. Any questions both before we move on to our match breakdown bit? Fire away. Arjun is asking here, can you show the right way to transition? That would be, I think, this way here. Ignore that bit. You see why I do this bit here? So it would have been spider. I did it wrong here. I let go of this so Kirsten could posture up and pass me. So imagine I'm still here and I'm gonna let go of this guard, grab the collar. So I'll skip to this bit where I have the collar. There, that's a transition now. So I go from spider to collar and sleeve, and then I can lasso or De La Hiva. That makes sense. Cool. So let's close this, and then it's fight breakdown time. Today we have Mr. Tai. We've got one of his matches from the Worlds, and if you guys haven't checked out from last week, I'm gonna pull this up real quick. Have an intermission. Last week we did flower sweeps, right? And Tai sent us a nice little clip of him hitting the sweep in comp. I think I posted on the Grand Union page. Guys haven't had a look. Let's look at it now. I'll quickly pull it up. But yeah, he's a prime example of how good the flower sweep is. And he's got the the perfect body type for the flower sweep as well. So it's quite nice to see. Long legs is quite good for flower sweeps. Here we go. Found it. Alright guys, we have Tai here, one of us. So here's the flower sweep. Boom. So last lesson, we're looking at sweeps. And we talked about the sweep here. Here he is in comp. Underhooks the leg. We do that pendulum with the leg. Curling with the other one. And it hits the sweep. Boom. There is in real speed. Like I said, practice the flower sweeps when you guys get back, especially from close guard. Really strong grip. Well, here we have him again. Alright. So this is, I think, his match from the Worlds. He was a purple belt back then. He's a brown belt now. But let's see how he does. So, initial little threat. He was worried about the handshake. You see there? Look at that. Boom. One handshake. Guy reaches in. They don't know if they want to handshake or not. And they fist bump. Tai pulls guard here. Now, this is very common, okay? And we saw this in the breakdown of one of our students, Arjun's match as well, where he pulls, right? And he leaves this leg in the middle. Now, unless you're going for one leg X, okay? Which I think Tai is not right now. This leg shouldn't be here in gi scenarios, okay? No gi is quite good. But in gi scenarios, it allows your partner to do several passes on you. And it's quite stuck, not letting you set up your guards. So that's the first little issue we had there. So here's what the person on top could have done to Tai in that scenario. So I pull him, my leg's stuck in the middle. That's the leg weave pass, which is he was very acceptable to. Okay, so anytime you're doing your guard pulls, especially if you're open guard player, we don't want that leg in the middle. So when I pull guard here, I'm gonna swing that leg out, and then I can set up my guards, right? Tai here looks like he's trying to set up some form of lasso. Guy doesn't know the leg weave pass, okay? He keeps shrugging that old to the side every time. But Tai's keeping his knee flared, so he should be okay in most cases there. So it's not the end of the world in that little slice there. The guy didn't leg weave, but he didn't pass. So they're kind of in a stalemate right now. Now, Tai's got some form of double sleeve control here. He's trying to set up this lasso. The guy keeps pushing it off all the time. But it's quite a nice control to have this on his shoulder or bicep the whole time. It means he can create distance anytime he wants by kicking. And it's kind of a nice, kind of like stalemate position where you can hold someone. The guy's not going to pass. Now we're focus on this hook right now. The guy's one leg up. And Tai's got a very shallow reverse De La Riva hook. It doesn't look like it can be a butterfly hook. But if he takes this foot right underneath it, it will become a reverse De La Riva hook. And he can set up a really nice over shoulder sweep to the left. So this would be my advice to him when someone kneels down in this sort of position. So I'm just gonna full screen like this. So here we have Kirstein. I'm in the same spot. That leg is in the middle. I'm gonna put this foot on the other leg, and because I have double sleeve control, I can kick and sweep her to the side. So here, the guy crouched down. Hook had to slide just to the bend of this knee here, and he could have hamstring curled him to the other side. Of course, there's counters that he could have done, but it would have been a nice threat, nonetheless. So, but guy's still trying to get that foot off the bicep. He's clearly worried about it. Tai is still with those double sleeve controls. Forces his partner to stand. There we have a little De La Riva attempt of some sort. But again, he's still trying to go for that lasso. And again, this is great, really great distance control from Tai. He's got his knee shield on the chest there. The foot and the bicep is very hard for him to pass as the person on top. A little cheeky foot to the neck to make some distance. Double sleeve control here. And he finally gets his leg out. So we see now he makes enough distance to get that leg out from the middle. And he gets his close guard. So now we're happy. Really nice transition. He shrimps and he starts setting up his spider guard, I'm assuming right now. Either spider or lasso. So we saw this little guard break here. Wasn't a guard break, he opened his guard intentionally to set up the spider. Guy's staying on his knees. So here we have a couple of options, right? From our lesson today, he could have gone to his half guard chain, etc. But I'm assuming Tai is not a half guard player. I wouldn't be as well if I had legs like that. So he's trying to force this spider guard. Now there's one little issue with the spider guard that he's trying to force. He's also could be a triangle attempt as well, one or the other. But here's what Tai did. Okay, He shrimped, which was perfect. And then he put the foot on the bicep. But he's completely square towards his partner. Okay? So it's very hard for him to get any form of distance. So my advice to him here is get onto his side. So he can push further away. And he can put that foot on the bicep a lot wider. And essentially get up on his elbow. Okay, so right now he's completely flat facing his partner. So it's harder to force the person to stand or to get his foot on the bicep because he doesn't have enough distance. But if he got on his side and then stretched the way, he would have had a little bit more distance. Guy goes one knee up, he shoots in for the triangle. Unfortunately, that little elbow there saved him. It's a very nice triangle attempt. Very common spider setup. Okay, he's got the foot on the hip, sleeve control. Unfortunately, the guy had a little grip on his trousers there and he knew the triangle might have come. So he drew his elbow backwards. He's able to set up the triangle. Now, this is really important here, okay? And very well received from Tai. He realized that the triangle didn't work, okay? Because the guy's elbow was out and he recovered. A lot of people here will try to force this triangle, which will allow his partner to crush to the side and pass. Tai realizes this and he brings that leg back straight away to make distance. Okay, so watch that again. Doesn't get the triangle, doesn't try to force it. He backs away. And that's experience right there, right? Someone unexperienced would have shot for this triangle here, try to force it, and given up the pass. And we saw this in our triangle breakdown videos, okay? Now, that's your usual triangle setup that everyone knows, okay? And there's lots of, not issues, but it's a hard move to pull off, okay? Especially for Spider God players. Everyone is expecting that. So my advice to Tai here would be to set up a different version of this triangle setup, okay? Which I call the stomping triangle, which is famous. I forgot the guy's name, but I'll find out for you guys later. But he made this triangle famous. It's the only triangle setup that he uses. He calls it the stomping triangle. But he's gonna set up Spider God like he normally does. So nothing changes here. So here's where Tai would shoot. Let this leg slide. He's shooting for the triangle. And hope that this leg catches him. Okay. Another way of doing this is to stomp this leg down and shoot this triangle through instead, which is not as common. So you see me doing it here. I stomp this down and I go for this version of the triangle. So I could go omoplata or triangle here. Then the leg goes over and then you can set up a triangle. So that would be, in my opinion, a little bit better in terms of attacking chain. So we're here. He kind of does a little stomp there, you see that? But he shoots that leg through. But I reckon if he stretched that leg out, stretch this leg out, gotten onto his side, and then stomped it back down to shoot for a triangle on this side, it would have worked out a little bit better for him. But nonetheless, he shoots, elbows tucked in, recovers, perfect. Again, that's just the triangle bit there, we'll quickly show it. So stomp the leg down, shoot this version of the triangle. And then the last little slicer, which, hold on, I think I skipped it. He tries a little overhead sweep here. I think it's here, yeah. I skipped the overhead sweep, oh no. Right, he gets his one leg X, we'll go with the overhead sweep in a bit, but this is a nice setup here. So this is one of the examples that I was talking about earlier, where he has double sleeve, foot on the bicep, the foot goes on the floor in between the legs, and he's able to set up his one leg X. And from the one leg X, the guy has no base to that side, he's leaning onto him. Ty realizes this and just chucks him to the side and gets the sweep. And I believe he wins that on points. So that was a beautiful example of the transitions that we're talking about from the open guard. So here, his guard is open. Instead of just staying frozen there, straight away starts attacking, transition into a different guard. And again, this was all experience, right? At the start of the fight, he saw that his spider guard and lasso wasn't working. The guy just wasn't able to pass. He wasn't able to sweep. He wasn't able to triangle him. So he forced him to stand, which he was able to get his one leg X from. And from there, he was able to sweep. So you guys will understand that a lot more in the future when you get to the high levels. But that's the importance of transition. And this is a great example. I reckon if Ty just stayed playing his spider, he's trying to play his lasso, he wouldn't have swept this guy, and he wouldn't have, he might have not won, right? That's the end of this match. But I quickly wanted to show him something else. So let me just see if I can find it real quick. But he did try an overhead attempt during his fight, and it's very common to the guy to stop the overhead sweep. But there's a really nice move he could have done as well. I think I have it here. Give me just 1 second. And that is the end of the stream in terms of after the fight analysis. Here we go. Should be here. Is it here? Oh. I'll have to show it to him when we come back. Somehow I always lose a couple stuff when I'm filming. I have no idea how. Yeah, I can't find it. But anyway, any questions about any of that stuff? Any things during the fight or off stream? Fire them away now. But that is the end of the class. Hope you guys enjoyed. Next, I don't know. I'll find out which lesson is a bit easier to teach, to understand in terms of next week. But I'll see what you guys pick. This is the part where we hang out. So if you want to join the Discord group, I'll put the link now on the chat, and you can have a chat. We'll look at Reddit, answer some questions or things. Mario, are you from Brighton? Mario used to be, so there's in here in Grand Union in London, right? There's only like, I'd say 4 Spider Guard players in the whole gym that were really good at Spider. Rogerio was the main one. I used to roll a lot with Mario, and he was my main partner for Spider God as well. He's a tough old man. But yeah, he's very good at Spider God. He used to sweep me with this overhead spider thing over the time. Yeah, if you ever want to get good at Spider God, there you got the person to teach you. What was I gonna do? Oh yes, Discord. I always forget how to invite people in this. But yeah, we have a Discord group. If you guys want to join in. One day I'll learn how to use. Oh, it's here, isn't it? Yeah. Invite. Yo, how do I invite people? You showed me last time. Invite people here. Found it. Alright, send it in the link here. If you guys haven't joined, join in. It's like a group chat. And see you guys if you're leaving. If you're hanging around, join Discord if you can, so I don't have to keep reading the text anymore. But let's see what's out on BJJ Reddit today. Kiwi, do you have anything for us? What did you learn today? Yeah, from the live stream. What was the most important concept? Let's see if Kirsten gets this right. This is the person who forgot half guard. She doesn't know, guys. She doesn't know. So, from the BJJ Reddit page, wait, let me just see if I can hear people from the Discord. I keep forgetting who's who. Who's Kakarot? We have Matt, who's joining as well. Let's see if where's Marianne? Ginger, did you learn how to get in again? Ooh, yes,